Hi, I'm Patricia Greenberg, and this is It's Okay to Be Old, a show about all things aging well. Now, I have always been intrigued with the laws of attraction. I'm very sensitive to that unspoken nuance when people come together, body language, tone of voice, that inner gut feeling that you're either attracted, repelled, or neutral towards another human being. And most importantly, the scent of another person. Today, I have with me an expert, the expert on fragrance, Sue Phillips, whose expertise spans from developing customized perfume to partnering with doctors to help people regain their sense of smell, and teaching by example how to cultivate a life for oneself, both personally and professionally. Welcome, Sue.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, I don't think there's enough time in the day to cover all that I would like to ask you, but let's just get started. Now, you're a world renowned expert on perfume and scent and attraction, and you have truly transformed the world of perfume. Tell us about this.
Well, everything that I've done has been serendipitous. And I'm originally from South Africa, went to New York. I was a singer and an actress. And because of the competition in New York, the immigration attorney said, we have too many out of work singers and actresses. What else do you do? And because I'd always been told my mother, have something to fall back on, I had done a business course and I landed up at Elizabeth Arden and then Lancôme as marketing director and Tiffany as executive vice president. If you'd have told me growing up in South Africa that one day I'd be executive vice president of Tiffany to create the the Tiffany iconic perfume, I'd say you're crazy. So I'm really short circuiting the story because it took a long time. But when I left Tiffany to have my daughter, I started my own custom fragrance business or my own fragrance business because I didn't really want to just be home and stay home and not do anything. So I started my company called Centerprises, and I started to talk to people and created fragrances for Avon and Burberry and Trish McAvoy, and everything was going swimmingly until the pandemic came. Well, no, sorry, before the pandemic, the economic crisis came.
Yes, yeah.
And that was in 2008. So everything had to, I pivoted and I started thinking about custom fragrances at a time when everything was about designer fragrances and celebrity fragrances. And so I started thinking about customization, how important customization was, personalization. And people said, Sue, what are you doing? Tupperware parties for perfume? And they laughed. And now today, personalization is everything. So, the next big sort of bump in the road was COVID. So I had opened a boutique downtown in Tribeca. That was Jamie Foxx found me, Katie Holmes, and Daya, and it was great contacting and being in touch with all these people. But then when COVID came, everything shut down again. And this time, nobody was wearing perfume. So I started to write my book, The Power of Perfume. And it was because I'd written articles, beauty articles, magazine articles, all about fragrance. And suddenly, NBC wanted to do a story about the book. And they said, Sue, we have somebody who's lost her sense of smell. Do you think you can help her? I said, well, I don't know, but I'm happy to try. So the woman came. She had not been able to smell for 15 months. And I took her what I now call a scent healing journey. And she kept on smelling the blotter strips, sniffing, smelling, sniffing, and she couldn't smell anything. By the time the 14th one came, she suddenly stopped. She started to get very emotional and she said, I smell something and it's beautiful. And she started to cry. Well, I was in tears. The NBC crew was in tears. It was such a pivotal moment that she was now suddenly able to smell. And what people don't realize is our sense of smell is our most powerful sense. Sight is our strongest. And suddenly, this woman who had not been able to smell, and also as a byproduct of that, not being able to taste food, she suddenly was able to smell again and was very emotional. So, I have created fragrances for beautiful brands, celebrities, brands, and over 50,000 people. But the people that I've really helped recover their sense of smell has been so important. And people don't really realize how important it is until they've lost it. So it's been an amazing journey. I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. I talk about my 6 Ps, being passionate, perseverance, persistence, having purpose, being professional, and of course, perfume.
So this is well, this is twofold. The pandemic took a lot of people's sense of smell away. I had it
Yes.
for about 3 to 5 months, and I was devastated because I'm a professionally trained chef and nutritionist, and I couldn't smell food. I couldn't cook. I burned so many things in the kitchen because I'd walk
I'm
around
sure.
smell it. And
And it must have made you feel really devastated that you
yes,
couldn't smell and you probably couldn't taste as well.
no, and I had an extra, my sister and I always joke we're like dogs. I could be sleeping and my husband gets up very early and makes coffee, and I could smell the coffee from my upstairs bedroom
Right.
kitchen, and I could go and I would stick my nose in things, and it eventually came back. So, but there's also people who have other conditions that have caused loss of smell. So
Right.
you work with that. I think that's amazing. So do people still come to you for that? Is that something you do?
Yes, and in fact, I was just having dinner with a friend of mine the other night who said to me, Sue, I lost my sense of smell 30 years ago.
Oh,
So hers was not from COVID,
right.
hers was from the pandemic. But I had another gentleman a few years ago who had actually had brain cancer. And he said to me, do you think you can help me? Now, I couldn't help the guy who had brain cancer because he had had radiation.
Mm.
And what happened was the radiation literally fried the brain cells. And so whatever I did, he couldn't do it. Now, the friend that I met with, had dinner with the other night, I said to her, I would like to try it because I gave her, I did a wellness seminar the other day and I showed her some of the strips. She wasn't able to smell 3 or 4 of them, but the fourth one or the fifth one, she said, there's a faint smell. So if there was a faint smell, then I think I can try and help her restore it. So we're going to try and do that.
So the process is to continually stimulate the sense of smell until it regains or it relearns how to smell.
Right. So your olfactory system is the olfactory bulb, which is at the back of the brain, right here at the top, that connects to your limbic system. And one of the things that has happened throughout the years, nobody teaches anybody to smell. We're taught to write, to speak, to listen, to taste, to touch, but nobody teaches us how to smell. And so people just don't think about it until it's lost. So I am trying to really help people, and I've helped people through what I say smell with your brain. I want you to concentrate, be quiet, no extraneous noises or disturbances, to really focus in on what you are smelling, and so that you can connect the olfactory bulb to the limbic system, and those neuro pathways can be re-stimulated.
This is
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I will tell you that out of the 250 people I've spoken to and I've met with, I think there were about five that I couldn't work with at all. One was the guy who had the brain, cells. A couple of people just, they said, well, Sue, you're the expert. Okay, help me. They didn't put in the work. They wanted me to do all the work. And I said to them, you've got to concentrate. You really have to think about this. And people don't think about it. There's the expression, stop and smell the roses. People don't stop and smell the roses. And so, honestly, olfactory rehabilitation is a big thing because it really can also affect your lifestyle. It can affect your joy, your capacity to enjoy life, to enjoy food, to just socialize. Everything we do pretty much revolves around food. Let's meet for lunch, for breakfast, for tea, for dinner, for anniversaries, for parties. And of course, food and wine and drinks are always there. And so it becomes very convivial. Well, guess what? When you can't smell and you can't taste, you don't want to socialize. So it really affects the whole system.
fascinating. So there's so many people out there that could be helped by this. And do you find that it's reversible at almost any age? Do you find you that older adults you're able to bring back that sense of smell?
I had a young guy who actually saw the NBC segment, and his father, Sahil, brought Saeed from Chicago to meet with me. They flew out on a Friday night. I met with him early Saturday morning. He was 13 years old. He had lost his sense of smell because of COVID, and the kid was so upset. He was devastated. I've had Bobby Fendley, who came from, I think, Wisconsin. When I saw him, he was so morose. He looked down, he looked depressed. He walked with a little stoop. When I helped him and he left the studio, being able to smell it. He was radiant. He stood up. It was amazing. His face was flushed. He was happy. He was excited. And I stay in touch with all my ex-clients or my past clients because I want to know how they're doing. Now that COVID is over, it's not as top of mind as it was, but people still hear about me and they come and see me. And so I'm trying to really help as many people as I
It's
can.
amazing. And we're gonna, when we put the show up, we'll put a link
Yeah.
to being in touch with you. Sue, I want to talk about pheromones, and that is a chemical substance produced and released. I went and looked it up. This is the
Yeah.
actual definition. A chemical substance produced and released into the environment by mammals and insects that affect the behavior or physiology of others of its species. Can you speak to that and what pheromones are and how perfume plays a role or the relationship?
So pheromones are actually, they are really involved with in your body. And what happens is people really, there's a misconception about pheromones because also it has to do with what you eat and what's in your bone, what's in your system. And how the sweat glands also happen to be affected. Typically, think about animals. What do animals do? They sniff each other
If each
because they
other.
really want to find it. Now, we don't sniff each other you know, to get excited. When we sniff people and the fragrance is wonderful, then you do certainly have a positive association. But and our existence isn't based on we have to survive by sniffing people, you know, but animals they do. So the thing is that we try and duplicate pheromones with certain secretions that are fragrance, for instance, amber and musk. And these fragrances, the ambergris actually comes from the sperm whale. Musk comes from the beaver and the civet cat. And so it's more prevalent in animals than it is in humans. But I will tell you, if you, well, I'll give you a perfect example. After I got divorced, I was very interested in somebody, and we'd always had a sort of across the room kind of a chemistry. When I finally got close to him in an intimate way, it was such a turnoff that all the attraction faded. Now, that was really interesting. It wasn't that he was, dirty or anything like that. It was just his own body
Yes,
chemistry
yes, yes.
released certain aromas and secretions that were just so off-putting. So why is that? So it has to do with what you eat. It has to do with your own natural body chemistry. It has to do with so many factors. I had a young girl the other day, and this was so tragic. I was doing a wellness seminar, and she came up to me, and I said to her, after I spent a little time with her, and I said, do you ever wash your clothes or your uniform? And she said, yes, all the time. In fact, this is new. And I said, well, you really do have an odor. She said, I know. And she said, and these were her words, I stink. And I was so upset for this poor girl because she recognized it, and it's her own body chemistry that emitted these awful odors. Now, I'm sure it was nerves. She said she runs a lot, she sweats a lot, she perspires a lot. And I said to her, well, I took her into the bathroom. We had a little chit chat, and she was sweet. And I was very compassionate for her. And I said, I really want to help you. And what also happens is what people don't understand is when you wear the same clothes, and sometimes you wear synthetic clothes, rayon or,
Yeah.
not cotton, but the perspiration is absorbed into the clothes. And then when you wear them again, the heat from your body releases the fragrance. And so it could really be a problem. So people don't realize how important even, dry cleaning and washing clothes and how your body sweat, your body odor can actually be affected by wearing things over and over again
Without
and not
washing.
washing.
Yes.
And,
Well, very interesting. And
it-
do detergents, it's a little bit of an offshoot of the question, but do the detergents work to remove all that, or does it get permeated in the fabric?
well, there are No, detergents definitely release
Okay.
the body odors, the perspiration, the body odors, the dirt, and so on. Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a personal account.
Okay.
I'm allergic to everything. I can't use scented dish soap in the kitchen. I can't use scented laundry detergent. I get rashes on my legs. So I use the all clear, clear and brilliant, whatever the terminology is for these cleaning products, and it's been very helpful. And over the years, I've gotten more and more allergic to perfumes, and I have this stretch where I walk my dog. I call it Allergy Alley. It is the most gorgeous stretch. This woman's gardening skills are beyond, and we love to walk by. I take all the pictures, and then I come home a little nasal. So, talk to me a little bit about flower allergies, perfume allergies. Or is the allergy to a perfume more something synthetic in the perfume, or do you have any thoughts on that? Because I know
Yes.
people experience that, and I think we all are missing out on the beauty of a lovely scent when we can't tolerate it. Yeah.
Well, I've been in the fragrance industry for 40 something years, and I've never heard more complaints from people about getting headaches and allergies from fragrances than I have in the last 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
Now, what is the reason for that? Well, certainly, think about if you think about perfumery, the classic beautiful flowers, your rose, your jasmine, your lily of the valley, some beautiful vanillas, the spices, your beautiful herbal notes, the lavender, and so. So those were all natural from centuries ago and 100 years ago, 50 years ago. What's happened is because of so many natural disasters, floods, fires, earthquakes, some of those beautiful ingredients have been discontinued because it's too expensive or in perfumery. And so there are certain molecules that are made now through chemicals. There's this thing called headspace technology where you can go and, imagine putting a cup over a bowl over a beautiful rose and they capture the essence of the rose and then they recreate it in the lab. Well, certain molecules and chemicals are used to recreate that fragrance and also to add, like heft to it. I want my fragrance to last. I want it to last 8 hours. Well, those things don't happen anymore. And certain fragrances just are not the same as they used to be. And so, because of chemicals and because of certain synthetics, fragrances change and give people headaches and allergies. And it's the nature of the beast. I mean, Chanel number 5 that was created in 1910 or 1920 is not the same as it is today because they've changed it over the years for various reasons. Jasmine is no longer to be, or it's very expensive and it's become cost prohibitive. So a lot of these chemicals and these detergent products are usually made with chemicals.
Right, right. So that's, we got across the board, Sue, in life, we got to get back to natural and back to basics.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
this back to nature is a critical part of all this.
But some people don't realize, back to nature is also very expensive. They don't want to pay $300 or $400 for a bottle of perfume if you can get it to Target for $10. I mean, think about this. What kind of, really beautiful high fragrance can you get? And I'm not disparaging Target, but I'm just saying that, certain fragrances are going to be expensive if they are made of natural high quality perfume ingredients.
Another question I had for you is, getting back to the pheromones and our natural scent, that we emit a natural scent. And yes, when you sweat, some people's sweat smells worse than others, and some people
Yes.
go long periods of time exercising and they don't really emit such strong smells. So if you're designing a perfume for someone, how do you actually make it compatible with that person's? Because I've heard you can pour pheromones into the perfume, or you can mix perfume with a person's personal scent. How does that, what's the process of designing a customized?
So
Yeah.
when I do a custom fragrance, first of all, I like to know who they are, what is their lifestyle. Are they casual? Are they sophisticated? Do they like to go outdoors for walks, or do they prefer a little bit more sophisticated, experiences and outdoor events and that kind of thing? I give people a scent personality quiz, which you can actually take online on my website. And that is a lifestyle, Chris. So I like to know what somebody's lifestyle is. If you're an outdoor person and you love to go hiking and walking, and you love the beach, or you love, something more sporty, you're not going to want something very sophisticated and very spicy, or very high floral, or very, more exuberant and sophisticated. And by sophisticated, I mean a really sort of beautiful, high quality amber, or a spicy, or an amber, versus something that could be very light and citrusy and sporty, like a citrus with lemon, or, lime, bergamot, that kind of thing. So understanding somebody's lifestyle and their personality helps me determine what fragrance direction they want, whether they want fresh or floral or woodsy or spicy or fruity. And it's amazing because, you know, right now also the trend is unisex.
Yes.
And, you know, it's so interesting. I tell people that Americans mostly love fresh and clean. Everybody in America wants to be fresh and clean because we're so uh,
Germ
terrified
phobic. Yes.
and
Yes.
terrified of having a
Yes.
body odor.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
everything is fresh and clean. South Americans love spicy. The Europeans love floral.
Mhm.
The English love lavender. And the Middle East love oud and heavy
Okay.
incense.
Okay.
And so when you understand where somebody comes from in their lifestyle, I would never give a really light, bright, citrusy, exuberant life fragrance to somebody from the Middle East who really loves that heavy oud and the heavy incense, unless they specifically said they wanted it. But it's very interesting how personalization has become so ingrained. Everything is do it yourself, how to reflect your own scent persona through a fragrance that you wear.
That's very interesting. That helps all of us kind of define if you think about, what's your life like and how does it fit in? So I want to ask you the age-old question. I hadn't planned on asking you all these intricate questions about perfume, but it's fabulous. So someone puts it on and they just smell like the Bloomingdale's counter. They walk into a party and they are drenched in perfume and everybody's offended by it. Is there a rule of thumb about how much to put on, what time of day, how to let your body enhance it or get it parts of the body? What's the quick sheet on that?
Well, there is sort of fragrance protocol, what to wear and how much to wear. But I will tell you, those days of being drenched don't happen that much anymore because there are certain rules and regulations. The FDA has come up with certain requirements and certain laws that say, concentration of the fragrance is only up to maybe 25 or 28%. You can't, do it the way it was 40, 50 years ago, 60% of oils. So the idea that I always say is to wear a fragrance that really supports you, that reflects who you are, and make it in a way that lasts effectively. So think about this. Every day, we shower or bath with a scented soap or a scented gel. We put in a scented, shampoo, scented conditioner, scented deodorant, a scented body lotion, and all these conflicting scents are on your body. And then you take your very expensive perfume or you spray and you dab it or spray it, and you expect that to last because people really want their fragrances to last for hours and hours and hours. And some fragrances just don't last. And then you have all these conflicting scents which interfere with your perfume. So I always suggest people to take unscented lotion. It's hard to find unscented soap, although you can. An unscented gel, all the gels are, very, very, fruity and luscious and so on. But if you can find an unscented soap and then use an unscented lotion, that'll act as a canvas on your body, and then you can apply your fragrance, which will be beautiful and subtle, and it will last, as opposed to all these conflicting fragrances. And then you spray, spray, spray so much, and that's how you have this over volume
Overkill.
of
Mhm.
fragrance, overkill, right?
I love that you say that because of my sensitivity, I use a lot of unscented products that we can name over the counter in the
Right.
CVS. You can get Neutrogena, you can get CeraVe,
Avena,
Aquaphor,
exactly.
right. So there's a lot out there. It's very good to know because I know that sometimes I'll shampoo with something. I'll try something new because made a claim that my hair is going to be silkier or whatever.
Right.
The feel is there, but the smell is horrible. And the rest of the day, I have that ick smell in my hair. So this,
Especially with shampoos, because
yes,
you have
yes,
all these rain-scented fragrances
right.
and the Pacific and Hawaiian paradise fragrance, and it's all very chemical because it's those little fragrances that are put into those accessory products that are so strong and so pungent, and
You
it'll
know, but this is this thing, Sue, that, we're afraid to get old. We're afraid to smell. We're afraid to have frizzy hair. We're afraid, we're
yeah.
just, and so all these products are, each and every one of us in America is a walking target for these marketers to say, you'll smell good, you'll look good, you'll feel good. And it's head spinning, mind boggling. Sue, you wrote two books with a third on the way?
No, one book with the second on the
Second
way.
on the way. Okay. Okay.
So this is the first one, The Power
Okay.
of
Our
Perfume, which is
perfume.
when I
Okay.
wrote, just at the time of the pandemic. The second one was actually as a result of the work that I had done to help people regain their sense of smell. A neuroscientist reached out for me from, I think, Vancouver, and she's a neuroscientist. And she said, I love the work that you're doing, and I would like to help write a book with you from the neuroscientific standpoint of how fragrance and neuroscience is so connected, the olfactory and the limbic system. So her name is Dr. Mila Emerald. She's wonderful. We've written a book and it's at the publishers right now. So I'm
Fantastic.
very excited about that because it's really about that aspect of olfactory rehabilitation and training. And there are some really wonderful testimonials and stories about how I've helped people. This Bobby Fendley, who literally was so dejected when he walked in. My friend Wahid, who actually flew to Switzerland to try and get back his sense of smell. He couldn't, and when he met with me, I got it back for him. So go figure. It's amazing that I was able to help some of these people, and some doctors have not been able to. And I think it's really because, you know, again, you have to be passionate about what you love. And because I'm so passionate about fragrance, I talk to people in a way that is not sort of medicinal. It's not scientific or technical. It's really emotional. And I try and help people recall memories of things that they loved as a child, or their first kiss, or memories of a loved one, or something that they didn't like, and why can't they eat vanilla? Or maybe as a kid, they broke their arm or their elbow or their knee or something. And the doctor or their mother gave them a vanilla lollipop or a vanilla cookie. And by eating the vanilla lollipop or cookie, it reinforced that, oh, I'm getting it because I'm in pain, because I broke my leg, or I'm so. And so throughout growing up, they might have an aversion to vanilla, not because of the smell itself, but because of the memory associated with it. And it's all to do with memory and emotion, because our sense of smell is so tied into memory and emotion. Our sense of smell triggers memory and emotion.
Yeah.
And people don't think about that, as I said, one of the best compliments you can ever get is if you wear a fragrance that you love, and people say, oh, you smell wonderful. And it's something that you love that reflects who you are. And you say, well, it's me, it's mine, it's something that I love. And either you've created or it's something that really works for you.
It's amazing. And such a confidence builder. I want every human being to step out the door and feel like a movie star, right? We all deserve
Yeah, with their own custom
their
scent.
own custom scent. And yes, that individuality about feeling good about yourself and not doing what other people wanted. So it sounds like you're just getting started. It's right.
Well, I will
And I know
tell
you're
you,
pitching yourself. You said earlier that you never in a million years. And every time you turn around, it's like is a new wonderful thing. So what's up next for you? You made a big
well,
move recently.
I made a huge move. As I told you, I was born in South Africa. I lived in New York for 48 years. And 3.5 weeks ago, I made the move to Sarasota, Florida. It's remarkable. It's a lovely little area. It's filled with art and music and opera and theater and all the things that I love. But the interesting thing is that, when you really embrace change and you accept it, some people are terrified of it. I had panic attacks the first 3 days, but everything has worked out beautifully. I've met wonderful people. I'm part of the community now. In 3.5 weeks, I've met a wonderful person, a wonderful man
Wow.
that I never thought that would happen. But I think you have to open yourself to the possibilities of change because the only constant thing in life is change. And I wrote a whole article about it on my Facebook page and LinkedIn. And, I think change is important. It just wakes you up and it just exposes you and opens you up to brand new possibilities. As my friend says, Robbie says, just show up. You never know what happens if you just show up.
So you're have lived an extraordinary life and you continue to live an extraordinary life. So tell us about, I always ask my guests, what do you like about being older? I want you to tell me what's extraordinary about being older.
I think finally, and you hear this from people, well, I don't care what other people think. I do care what other people think, but I also care about what I think.
Mhm.
I also am able to express myself. And if in a relationship, I always used to think about what does my husband like or what does my boyfriend like? And I was so nervous to really say, well, what I want. Because I think as women, we are also subjugated. I grew up in a very, very conservative country, South Africa, where women were always second class. I don't mean that literally. I mean it's second to being subservient to a man. My mother was an extraordinary woman. She was an artist, a calligraphist, a musician, a beautiful homemaker, and she had a spectacular, beautiful voice. And she got a lead role in La Traviata, the opera, La Traviata.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
And
Mhm.
I remember her, she would make dinner for us before she left to go to the theater and to get, so she was always putting herself, as a mother first and a wife first before her career as a singer and an actress. And I remember that. And at one point, my father who was a wonderful man, but he didn't like the fact that she left every night to go to the theater. And so she gave that up. But thankfully, she had other talents. She had her art and her music and her calligraphy and so on. But some women don't have that choice. So what I like about getting older is that I'm finally able to express who I am and care about what I think and still be considerate and kind and all those things. But if I want to do something, I will say it. I had a commitment the other day to go to a networking group. And my friend said, well, do you have to go? I said, yes, I did. I have to. I made a commitment. I'm going. Now, in the past, I would have said, well, okay, if you don't want me to go, I won't go. So you certainly make choices and you realize that the choices you make can either help you or hinder you, but you have to be true to who you are. And that's what I think is probably one of the best things about getting older, that you can be true to who you are.
Sue, you are so beautiful inside and out, and such a pleasure to get to know you and hear about what you're doing because, we all have these areas of specialties in our lives that other people don't know about, and you've just opened up a whole new world to us about what you do. Personally, your trajectory is amazing, but professionally, to learn so much about what you do with your specialty in fragrance and why you are considered a leading expert, because everybody says all kinds of things about what they do, but your in-depth study of the sense of smell, the olfactory system, and how perfume, how body scent plays a role in everything we do in life is absolutely amazing and such a huge eye opener for me. And I wish you all the best with it. I can't thank you enough for joining us today. And for those of you who want to contact Sue for any of her assorted things going on, her books, her business, and her getting you maybe back to being able to smell if you have that problem, is www.suephillips.com. And of course, we'll have that posted on the show as well. So again, I can't thank you enough. And to my audience, I want to thank you so much for listening to It's Okay to Be Old. And for comments, questions, and feedback about the show, you can reach me at www.patriciagreenberg.com. Thank you again, Sue, and I look forward
Thank you so
to
much.
conversations.
Take care and fragrant wishes to you and to all. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.